In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can make really realistic biscuits out of polymer clay that you can then incorporate into your needle felting work. My name is Charlotte Allen and you have reached my channel, The Felting Alchemist. Now, a little while ago, a few of you asked in the comments if I could show you how to make food out of polymer clay. So today I thought I'd show you how to make biscuits. Specifically, we're going to be making a custard cream and it's dead simple. Now, I really love working with polymer clay. I really do think it adds another dimension to needle felted work and just also adds a little bit of, and I know I say this loads, but a little bit of extra magic. So the things that you are going to need to do this are as follows. So you're going to need some white polymer clay. Now, I'm using Fimo today, but you don't have to use Fimo if you don't want to. It's just the product that I know and I use a lot. I'm actually using professional Fimo today rather than the kind of standard Fimo that you give to kids and things like that. And the reason for that is because it tends to hold its form much better. So when I use my molds in a little bit, the designs that I'm going to be impressing onto the Fimo are going to stay really firmly. The only downside to using the professional Fimo is that it's really hard. So it's going to take you quite a long time, especially if you've got very cold hands, to get it nice and soft, but it's well worth it to get that lovely form. I've also got some yellow Fimo, and this is just going to be so that we can make our cream for our biscuit. I've also got some artist pastel chalks, and I've got these from my local art shop, but you can buy them anywhere online and they're just a few pounds each. And because I don't need loads of different colours, I work with very specific colours when I'm colouring my Fimo. I've gone with a few biscuit friendly colours. So I've got this kind of browny, light browny kind of sandy colour here. I've also got more of a slightly chocolatey colour. And then finally, I've got again this kind of more yellowy sandy colours. So these are the three I'm going to be using to colour my biscuit. You're going to need some corn flour for the baking process, and you're also going to need either some tin foil or some baking parchment to bake your Fimo biscuits on as well, or your polymer clay biscuits. I've got a few tools here. I've got a painting brush to colour my biscuit. For some reason, I buy loads of painting brushes and then they all disappear. I can't help but think that some small people acquire them when I'm not looking, so I'm going to have to raid their craft cupboard later on just to see where all my brushes have gone. But we've got one brush and that's the main thing. It might be small, but it will be mighty, my brush. Okay, and then finally, the most integral thing that you're going to need for this is you're going to need some silicone molds. Now, as I said, we're going to be making a custard cream today, and I've got my custard cream mold here. Now, I actually made these molds myself, and it's a really simple process to do. Anyone can do it. So I went online on Amazon, but you can buy this product probably anywhere online. And it's a product called Silly Gum, and it comes in 2 pots, and it's kind of like a very wet putty, I guess. So you get a white pot and a blue pot, and you take equal measures of the white putty and the blue putty, and you just basically knead them together until you've got this kind of very pale coloured putty. Then all you do is you take whatever it is you want to make a mould of. So in this case, I took a custard cream, like an actual custard cream, and I put it inside the putty, and I left it for about 10 minutes or so. After 10 minutes, this stuff goes hard. I pulled out my biscuit and hey presto, you've got the imprint of a custard cream. So you can make all of the custom cream biscuits in the world out of polymer clay to your heart's desire. So I've got all sorts of things here. I've got jammy Dodger biscuits, I've made myself some jelly babies, I've also made myself a pretzel, and the ones I really love making are the love hearts. So I've made loads of little love hearts out of polymer clay in loads of different pastel tones, the tones that you get in a pack of love heart sweets. And then I kind of embellished them on all sorts of things like picture frames and lamps and all kinds of things like that for the kids. And they are just really sweet, no pun intended, but I really love this stuff. It's not overly cheap. I think at the moment it's about £24 as of today, which is the 13th of October. But obviously if you keep an eye on things on Amazon, they go up and down in price. So just keep an eye on it and try and get it when it's at its lowest price. So I'm going to take my custard cream biscuit mold. Now, the first thing that you really need to make sure before you start using any kind of polymer clay, especially if it's white, is make sure that you have a really clean surface. So I've already given this a wipe. Undoubtedly, there will still be dust on it because dust just gets everywhere. But I've given it as good a clean as I can. So I'm going to take some of my white Fimo, and oh my goodness me, it's very hard. I'm going to split that in half. It's so hard, all the little bits are coming off. And I'm just going to push this onto my work surface to just kind of start softening it up, softening up the edges, and getting it a bit more malleable, because at the moment it's really, oh, it's really tough, it's solid. So I'm just gonna get it really nice and malleable so then we can start working with it in a second. So I'll be back in a moment once I have tamed this beast. So I've just about managed to soften my polymer clay. So I've got it to a state where it's relatively malleable. And I've also managed to locate another brush, which makes me very happy because my life is going to be so much easier now showing you the next steps. So the next thing you need to do is get your corn flour, put a little brush inside, and you just want to brush the inside of your silicone mold, okay? You don't want loads of corn flour in here, just enough so that it doesn't stick. When you put the polymer clay inside, it just comes out nice and easily. So just a light dusting like that. Next, you want to place your polymer clay inside your mold, like a little ball shape, and grab a rolling pin. Now this rolling pin is a little bit excessive in size, but as I've already made you aware, my children are incredibly light-fingered, and somewhere within the house there is my little rolling pin, which they have effectively nicked. So we're going with the very large rolling pin now, so don't feel like you have to use one this size because this is really too big, but we'll work with what we've got. So then all you need to do is then obviously just roll this into your mold. Once you've got your clay rolled out into your mold, you just then need to peel back your silicone, and you should have, look at that, the top of your custard cream biscuit. So I'm going to put this to one side and I'm going to make one more. So I've got my second half of my custard cream made. So the next thing to do is make the custard filling. So I've taken more of my white polymer clay and I'm going to take just a very, very tiny amount of the yellow that I showed you earlier on. Now this is a really vibrant yellow colour, so I really don't want to have too much because I want to create that kind of creamy, pastel-y, yellowy look to this. So I'm just going to use this much for the moment. And I'm just going to blend this in with the white that we've already softened and just see what kind of colour we get. I tend to find when I'm blending colours with polymer clay, and people that are more professional with polymer clay may have different advice, this is just what I find works for me, is that I'll put the two colours together, and then in order to make my life easier, I kind of twist the two colours together and roll them between my hands. I tend to find that helps me to get a nice blend. So that's what I tend to find works for me when I'm blending polymer clays together. So I'll be back in a second once I've blended this all in and it's a nice pastel-y yellow colour. There we go, so we've got a pale yellow colour polymer clay, which is going to be the custard between our two custard cream biscuits. So the next thing to do is roll it out. So on my work surface here, I've just got some corn flour that I've just sprinkled across with the paintbrush I was using earlier. I'm going to place my yellow down on my surface, and I'm just going to very lightly, with my oversized rolling pin, just roll it out. And then again, a little bit on this side. So now I've rolled it out, I just need to check the sizing. So I'm just going to take one of my custard cream biscuits that I made and just lay it on top. That looks good to me. It's about the right size. I don't want it to be too big so it's spilling out over the edges, but at the same time I want people to see it. So I want it to have a little bit coming out of the edge, but just not too much. So now I'm going to take my custard cream biscuits that I made earlier. I'm just going to move that rolling pin out of the way so you can see a bit better. And we're going to make up some colour to add to our custard cream to make it look more biscuit-like. So I'm going to take my pot, and initially I'm going to take this kind of slightly yellowy brown and also the paler sandy brown that I showed you. I'm just going to get a knife and I'm going to use my knife and I'm just going to scrape, oh the sound goes right through me, scrape some of this into my pot that I've got here. And then I'm also going to scrape some of this colour as well. Now you can buy polymer clay in the correct colour that you're looking for, so you can get like biscuit colours and things like that, or you could even kind of blend them together. But I like using the pastel chalks because it means you can add some shading to stuff, so it's not all just one block colour. So you've got the kind of the shading there, the slightly different golden colours, like it's been baked in the oven. So I'm just going to take some of this, and then I'm just going to, with the brush, just blend some of those together a bit. And then I'm just going to very gently, very lightly, just start dusting my biscuit all over. And this is a gradual process. Don't go in with too much at once, because then what you'll do is you'll have a big clump of powder and it'll be quite hard to distribute over the rest of the biscuit and you'll end up with lots of unevenness. So just go in really gently, tap it off as you go. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting some of my powder onto my brush, tapping it off, and then just brushing it over my biscuit. And really make sure that you get right down to the edge. We don't want any white exposed here. I'm just going to get a bit more and just looking for kind of any areas where it looks a bit too pale, where you can still see that white coming through. And once I've covered the whole biscuit, what I'm going to do now is concentrate on certain areas more around the edges to get a bit more colour there, like it's been baked in the oven. This is kind of like a homemade custard cream, so you don't have the completely even finish that you would if you were buying it from a supermarket shop. It's like from a posh deli that makes their own custard cream biscuits or something like that. You know the ones you get in London, and it's like, we make our own custard creams, we make our own Jaffa cakes, that kind of thing. There we go. So you should have something that looks like this. So a nice biscuity colour that looks really natural and has lots of different tones going on. So I'm going to do the same thing now with my second biscuit. There we go, so my second biscuit's made. So the next thing to do is to put everything together. I'm just going to place one of the biscuits in my hand, and then I'm going to place the custard, or the yellow, inside. And then I'm going to place my other half of my biscuit on top, like so. Now the final thing I want to do is I want to make it look like it's been nibbled. So I'm going to take a little tool that I have. Now you can get these tools from anywhere, and as you can probably guess, I purchased mine from Amazon. I mean, I promise you, I'm not sponsored by Amazon at all. It's just ridiculously convenient just to get onto Prime and order things, and they're literally there the next day, aren't they? So I'm going to take this tool here, which is kind of like a rounded edge tool, and I think it's used in cake decorating for making smiles and things on characters and all that kind of stuff. But today it's going to be a biscuit nibbler. So I'm going to take this, and then I'm just going to nibble off some of my biscuit. Now what you'll find is then you'll have loads of white exposed, so I need to go back to my brush and just add in a bit of colour where I've just taken out those little chunks. There we go, so I've sandwiched my biscuit together and we've got the little chunks taken out where it's been nibbled by somebody, and then we've got our custard in the middle as well. So the next thing to do now is to bake it. So what I'm going to do is I've got some corn flour here, and I'm just going to shake a little bit of my corn flour onto my foil, not loads. So you've got about, I don't know if you can see, that much. And I'm just going to spread it out a little bit. Let's move all these bits out of the way so you can see better. I'm just going to spread this out a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is place my biscuit on top of the corn flour. And now the reason for doing this is if we were to put our biscuit onto the surface without the corn flour, potentially it would get squashed as it's cooking in the heat, and we don't want that to happen. So by having the corn flour as that base there, it keeps the shape on the other side whilst it's cooking, and it stops anything from flattening or anything like that. So you want to cook your biscuit on a low temperature. You don't want to have it on too high a temperature, because what will happen then is it will burn, and then it's just really frustrating because you spent all that time making it and nobody wants a burnt custard cream. So about 120 on a fan is about right, and I'm going to cook it for about 18 to 20 minutes depending on what it's looking like at 18 minutes. So I will see you in a moment when it's all cooked. So our clay custard cream has been in the oven for about 18 minutes on 120, and this is the finished result. So I've had to brush the corn flour off of one side just to get rid of that, but it doesn't take very long to do that. Just get a fine brush, get into all the nooks and crannies just to brush that away, and then you are left with this really realistic looking custard cream with the little bite out of the side of it as well. So I'm going to incorporate this into one of my sculptures. I don't know what yet, but I'm going to make something and incorporate this into it. Actually, I think I'm going to do something festive with it, because I remember visiting Father Christmas with my children a few years ago, and Father Christmas actually had a custard cream on the table with his cup of tea whilst he was talking to the girls, and forever since then Freya has always always associated custard creams with Father Christmas. So I think I might do something a little bit festive with this custard cream. But for now, I'm going to love you and leave you. So if you enjoyed this video, please like it. And if you haven't had a chance yet, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon, because then you'll get notifications of when I'm posting new videos, which is daily at the moment. And I will see you tomorrow with more needle felting hints and tips. See you then. Bye.